teacher, I'm not a youth director, so this doesn't apply to me. You know, we're all in ministry.
Yes,
all of us is ministry. So we are being told, as the Apostle Paul is sharing with us, he said, since God's mercy, we have this ministry. Even though we're not perfect, even though we are weak vessels, he's chose to use us to be able to go and share what God has given us. Whatever he's blessed us with, that we can bless other people with it. And he's saying here, he said, don't lose heart. In the midst of all this, don't lose heart. Because this will actually, if you look at these recipes and you look at these practices, these are going to actually help you to come up out of your discouragement. You know, the best thing, and we're going to talk about at the end, the best thing to do when you're discouraged is begin to bless somebody else. Begin to encourage somebody else. Here my mom, in the midst of having sugar diabetes, she had heart disease, she had everything imaginable. Her heart was enlarged, she couldn't feel her feet, she couldn't see, she was constantly in pain, and all she could think about when we were in those settings was raising other people. I think that's what kept her here so long. I think that despite what she might have been going through, what people might have thought of her, that was one thing that I can see that my mother did that I caught on to. That's a practice that we all should be willing to practice all the time. 2 Corinthians 4:16, if you just go a few verses beyond that, you can see the Apostle Paul. Now he's saying, therefore, we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away. Boy, some of us can say amen to that. Yet inwardly, we are being renewed day by day. So what is Paul saying here? He's saying for us older folks that when you're like me and you look in the mirror and it just seems like, you know, I said to myself a few months ago, don't worry, your hair is not going to, it's going to take a long time before there's nothing left up there. But you look in the mirror and it just seems like every day 6 more hairs fell out. And then you look and you see that you are outwardly wasting away, and you can get discouraged about that. You can really get discouraged when your body won't do what it used to, and your mind says you can do that. You see, I told a guy the other day, I said, you know, when I see a bunch of guys out there finishing concrete, I just want to jump out there at my age, put my hat on, get on my knees, and start finishing that concrete, just like I did when I was in my 30s. And my mind says I can do it. I don't know if any of you ever tried to finish concrete, but you get out there on your hands and knees and you're in the heat and you start to really work like this, and in about 30 minutes you're and these young guys are just out there laughing and cracking jokes, and they're just finishing this gigantic slab as big as this church here. So your mind tells you, though outwardly we are wasting away, he's saying, look, I'm one day closer at the end of today. I'm not being morbid, but I'm one day closer to being with Jesus. So though outwardly I'm losing ground every day in my physical body, I'm actually being renewed day by day. I'm getting one day closer. So what an encouragement that could be. So I'm just giving you some things. When you look in the mirror like me, some of you guys, you don't have to go to Bosley and spend $5 grand. Don't get hairs pulled out of your back for guys that have hair on your back and have them planted in your head. You don't need it. Just age gracefully and say, I'm getting renewed day by day. And I'm looking forward to being with Jesus forever. If you get an age to say, glory to God, I'm being renewed day by day. I'm not wasting away, but glory to God. See, instead of letting it take you to the other side, and you're going on all this medication, and you're doing all these things to try to get to look young again, I had I don't know if I should say this. I had a pastor friend of mine, and I knew he was going through some kind of a midlife crisis, because the guy didn't have any tattoos. He had nothing. He had no earrings. And all of a sudden, one day, he showed up at church, and he was dressing differently, and he had a hoop in his ear. And he's like, it was really bad, because he was my friend, and I couldn't help it. You know how when you're trying to talk to somebody, you're looking them in the eye?
He's staring at them.
I was wondering, saying, what's up with this? He's outwardly wasting away and he's not accepting it, so somehow he's trying to put something on his body to make him feel like when he looks in the mirror that he's young again. Don't be discouraged. And look, guys, if you go get a diamond stud or earring, I'm not going to be upset with you. You know, this is really Southern California, so there's a lot of things that you can get away with here that you will not get away with in other states. I can tell you that right now. So Jesus, he brings up this subject in prayer. In Luke 18:1, he says this. He says, then Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. Now, I didn't have this put on screen, but I just want to tell you real quickly of what Jesus was talking about in context. There was this widow, and she'd come to this judge. And the name of the parable is the persistent widow. And she came to this guy, and she kept coming to this guy, and he wouldn't deal with her. And he just, every day she would come in, and she was so persistent. And then finally he said, I'm going to have to go ahead and judge her because she's not going to leave me alone. And it even says in the scripture, Jesus said, the judge said this, said, I don't care about God, I don't believe in God, and I don't care about men, but I'm going to have to take care of this woman. And so he went ahead and he dealt with her, not in a bad way, but Jesus was showing that you don't give up. And he wanted the disciples to know when you're praying, and I know many of us in this place right now, you are praying. You're praying for your grandkids. You're praying for your kids. You're praying for your lost brother. You're praying for a relative that somehow has just fallen off the deep end, and you're worried every day that you might get a phone call from the sheriff's department or from highway patrol, or he's in prison. You might be living with this every day. And you know what this parable is telling us? Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. Keep on praying. Keep being persistent. Keep going to the Lord. Keep on saying, God, I know that you see what's happening here. And just keep praying every day and don't give up. And it says in due season, you will reap whatever you've sown. And if you sow all these prayers and sow them and sow them, it says in due time, in due season, Jesus says, that you will reap a good harvest. You will have something good that will come out of it. So I hope that I'm speaking to somebody today. If you've been on something and you're just getting ready to give up, don't give up. Continue just to be persistent and pray and believe, and don't get discouraged. Don't get down there in the bottom and just accentuate the negative. Begin to accentuate the positive and practice thinking on good things. Think about all the things that are good that are going on, like that piece of wire that I found on the side of the road. I was praising and rejoicing all the way down to Southern California for a lousy piece of wire that was trash to somebody else and was laying on the side of the road. But for me, it was wonderful. It was an answer to prayer because I was really praying and saying, God, I need something here. Because you know, the people out there on Interstate 5, they don't stop for you. Especially if you look like I did in a Volkswagen. That was a few years ago. And they just sped by me. You're just sitting out there and you're going like this, and they don't even make eye contact. They're just flying by at 80 miles an hour. And so I was really hoping to find something and have God show me that there was something right there. I just needed to open my eyes to it and find it, something right there that I could use to be able to get out of the mess I was in. You got something right now in front of you that you just got to ask God. You got to pray. And God's going to get you out of whatever it is. It takes faith to live above discouragement. Nothing derails the work of God's people like a negative word. And everyone who's trying to serve the Lord knows this is true. And I want to ask you today, have you ever noticed how people, they seem to know when you're in the midst of being discouraged? It's like people that you're just getting ready to come out of it. I'm being transparent with you. A stick, how many have driven a stick shift? You know, you're stuck in one gear and you're going up the hill and you're climbing and you're climbing and you're climbing and you're winding it up, and you'll know this in a truck. And finally you get to the point where you feel like the RPMs are just high enough and you're not going to be stuck, and you shift it into another gear real quick so you're not just sitting there like that in the same gear, the same speed. Well, in my life, I'm down, I'm discouraged, I'm just getting ready to shift gears and get out of that discouragement, and some well-meaning saint comes up. It says they're working for God, thus saith the Lord. And they say something to me. And it's just like they threw a giant log on the track, it derails me off of, and then I'm stuck in that gear if I allow them to come and speak into my life when they have no idea what I'm going through. And then they say, thus saith the Lord, and it's not the Lord that we serve or I serve, it's something else that came out of their mind because they are unhealthy, and then they want to take it and they want to put it on your plate and tell you to eat. Like when you're a kid, they say, eat your vegetables. Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to push that off my plate. I'm going to get the things that God says, put them on my plate, and I'm going to eat what God says to eat, and I'm not listening listening to that nonsense. I hope that you're with me today, but because you're sometimes in the middle of discouragement and somebody comes and they try to throw a bunch of garbage on your plate. And you know what? It always comes out of nowhere. It's like all of a sudden, these venomous words come from some corner. You don't even expect it to come out of those people. You're saying, wow, that person's always been so lovely. Every time that I've ever seen him at church, it's always, oh, it's so lovely today. And you never expect that. And then when you're down and you're stuck and you're in discouragement and it comes out of the corner, out of nowhere, and they come in and they discourage you. So we must be prepared for that. And they think they're right or trying to give you some kind of counsel. And sometimes we're so tempted to say, well, maybe I ought to turn in my Bible and quit. You don't have to say amen to this, but I know many people that when they're in the bottom like that, and then some well-meaning person, they think, they come in and they try to give them something. It's like they are just ready to close their Bible up, put it down, and just quit. Come on, don't look at me that way, because you know you've been ready to quit sometimes. All of us are ready to quit sometimes, and it just takes us practicing this, having some people surround us that will encourage us and lift us up again, and then we can begin to see daylight again and get that thing out of low gear and begin to ride again and enjoy life. Because that's what God wants us to do. He wants us to enjoy life. And I like to hang around people that they talk about things that are positive. You know, criticism is toxic. You might even be going through something right now, at work, at home, maybe at church. And these bitter words, they're just eroding your spirit. We should reverse our normal procedure. When we have these bitter words that are they just erode everything. It just seems to just keep you in that discouragement mode. We should reverse this whole mode, shouldn't we? As soon as we get in this, we should begin and it's not easily done, but Paul's giving us the recipe, and Jesus saying, be persistent, pray, think on these things, practice these things, surround yourself with people that talk about positive things. I want to ask you this question today. You don't have to answer it. How many people are you hanging around right now that are negative? How many people are you hanging around right now that you know if you went to Starbucks and you wanted to enjoy and have a cup of coffee? I'll be honest with you, there's some people, and you're going to say, I can't believe he said this. There's some people I don't want to go to Starbucks and have coffee with. You know why? Because I will be so exhausted by the time I leave there. I will not enjoy supposedly the best coffee in the world, Starbucks. Because all I hear for a solid hour is negative, negative, negative. Nothing about how to solve the problem or how to come up out of it. But nothing but negative, and by the time I leave out of there, I am just exhausted. I'm just drained. And then I always say, I'll never go back there again and have coffee with that person again. So you see what happens, we can actually be affected by the people that we hang out with. And so you need to be the kind of person that if you go and hang out with a person like that, by the time you leave, they're talking positive things with you, and they're sharing about all the blessings they have and about what God did give them and what they could do with what God gave them. So when we look at this, we see that we have to cry out to God first instead of last. Cry out to God first instead of last. Most of us wait until we're exhausted and all our resources are completely used up. And then we, as our last resort, we say, oh God, help me. And we say this, we say, we've tried everything, now all we can do is pray. Please don't say this to this guy here. Don't say, we've tried everything else, all we can do is pray. Because prayer is the first place that we should go to. That's the first place that we should be before we get to the place of crisis, before we get to the place of where we're so discouraged, we should be like the widow that was persistent and just keep going to the throne room of God and keep going and keep praying and not let the other things around us affect us until we, in due season, we begin to see God answering our prayers. And then I get to hear the good things. I get to hear people say, man, I was praying and this whole situation turned around. I got my job back. I got the money that I wasn't even expecting. I had these people that hated me and now we're drinking coffee together and we're having a good time together. And that's what God is saying here today. We've tried everything now, but all we can do is pray. Now, many of us have anxiety closets. We have these little places in the dark where we have all this that we've kept inside. We're discouraged, and we begin to build this up until, how many are with me where you get in this discouragement mode and it just goes round and round? It's like it's cut into the disc. How many have, I love it, I have on my computer where I get to listen to music, and you can hit the loop where it just keeps playing the same song. You like the song? Well, you can hit the loop of discouragement and just keep playing the same song. Same song, same song, same song. So what you've got to do is, instead of having these anxiety closets, you've got to come out of that closet and you've got to start to verbalize it and talk to God about it. You mean talk to God like that? Yes. Begin to tell God what it is. Begin to tell Him your trouble, and begin to, if you have to write it down on a piece of paper and look at it, sometimes it'll bring clarity to it, because then the light begins to shine on it, and then you realize it's something that you thought it even wasn't. Or it is where you're looking at something and it's built up so negative, and when you start to shine the light of the Word of God on it, and you bring it out in the open and you begin to talk to God about it, God will begin to show you, wait a minute, you're looking at that from the wrong vantage point. It's the wrong perspective. It's the wrong mountaintop. Begin to look at it through the eyes of Christ. And the whole thing will start to turn around. Talk to God about everything that you're going through right now. Don't allow these things to smolder in your thought life. And what I like to look at is, I like to impose order on them. I like to say, I'm going to write this down. I'm going to impose this. I'm going to make this happen in my thought life, because nobody else can do that. What does God say in His Word about these things? That's what I do. When I begin to have people start to get things really confused and really cloudy. How many have ever been in a situation you don't even know what to do? It gets so confusing. It gets so cloudy. And in the family, it just starts to get to the point, or even in the church, to where you start to even get a little bit muddled yourself. You start to get, it's like it's smoldering. And you got to get the light to shine on it to begin to even unravel it, to see really what's happening. And so that's what God's saying today. Some of you out there have some stuff that's smoldering. You got it played, it's on the loop. Negative, negative. And you've been negative so long that you don't even realize you're talking negative. And God's saying that He has something much better. He has something that will bring you out of discouragement. So don't allow discouragement to keep you from doing the work God has given you to do. And all of us in this place, we have something to do. All of us have something that God has given us to do. And anybody say amen out there? Amen. So it is possible to reduce the world around us to a little space that we occupy. Just imagine yourself being in this little office. You may not even work in an office, but you've got this little cubicle in your life. It may be at home, it may be at work, it may be in a warehouse, it may be in an office somewhere, and you've reduced your whole world to this little cubicle you live in. And what God is saying today through this Word is that He wants you to open up the window. Wherever you might be sitting right now, open up the window so that you can see, because if you sit in this place too long, it can become dangerous. It is a place that you do not want to view the world from. You may get to the point where you think everybody at church is bad. You may get to the point where everybody in your family is bad. Everybody at your work is bad. Well, I'm not being political, but everybody in the White House is corrupt. That's what you can do. If you get in that little microcosm and you sit in there, it's very unhealthy. You need to open up the window to the outside, because it's much bigger than us. God is much bigger than us. What He wants to do is so much bigger than us, and He wants us to live in that world that He lives in, where nothing is impossible. And where when you become discouraged, you open up that window and say, wait a minute, this world is so much bigger. God has so much more for me to do. I'm not going to allow this discouragement to derail me and get me off course. I'm going to open up the window to what God says about things. So you begin to bring light